Hi, and welcome to the Scenic podcast. This is the show for building a successful and sustainable business on your terms. My name is Jen, and I'm a rebranding sociologist with a soft spot for rhubarb pie. Each week, I'll strive to expand your branding, business expertise, and mindset capacity. I'm so excited you're here, and now let's get into today's episode. So, in this episode of the Scenic podcast, I'll be talking to Jen Fieldman. Jen is a coach for women navigating the entrepreneur journey. Using business experience and intuition, she helps them release what they think they should be doing and discover the unique, non-cookie cutter strategies that will actually work for them. The result, work that fills them up so they can run their business in a way that feels easy, authentic, and aligned. So I'll be talking to Jen, and we're going to talk about how you can find and tap into your own personal power, again, by figuring out and finding out who you are. I'm really excited to talk to Jen. Okay, so I'm so excited to have Jen here on this episode of the Scenic podcast. Jen and I not only share our name, but we have other similarities too. We're both ex-corporate ghouls. If we can call ourselves that, I think we can.
I think we can. Yes.
Yeah, totally. And I love about Jen that she calls herself champion of personal transformation. And I love that because that's something we should all champion in oneself and in others. So Jen, tell me, what were some of your personal transformational highlights? The rise from like a phoenix from the ashes moments.
I mean, I definitely felt like things were burning to the ground, including myself many times.
That's okay.
Right?
I mean, I really do love burning things to the ground. And that's the reason my husband, like my partner, he's like, you cannot have it. Like, I really want to have like one of these tiny kitchen torches to like do creme brulee. And he's like, no, you're not getting one of those. And I'm like,
no, I would not either. So I guess I would say the first one was probably when I left my job. And so I was financially able to do that, but I basically quit my final corporate job with no plan. And that started the whole thing.
Would you recommend that?
I would recommend that. Actually, I would do things a little differently, but leaving the corporate and the ad agency world was the best thing I've ever done.
Amen.
Yeah. Literally I can't actually speak to that enough. So that was number one. I would say it's kind of one of these things where, and I think this happens so much for people, women especially, who end up running their own businesses. There's so much inner work you have to do. And yes, the experts, right, will say things like, it's about attitude versus whatever. And it's like, yeah, but that's not really helpful until you start going into it. And so mindset, being aware of limiting beliefs and mindset was sort of like my gateway into this, and just understanding all the stories we tell ourselves. And there's so many. And so the book I always recommend for people is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not an affiliate for that, but it's like the best book because it's the first book where you also start to see that you're not the only one who has these stories and the way you think. And I think by knowing that gives you the permission to do the work, but start to do the transformation, because it's no longer thinking it's just me who does this. It's just me who thinks like this.
Yeah. I mean, that's also why I kind of thought I'm going to do the Scenic podcast. It's not just I think there's so much business advice or mindset advice or whatever advice geared towards people who can say they're going to do things and then just actually go and do it, which doesn't work for me, for most of my clients, for a lot of people. But I feel like we're many people, but we not like the pushy, braggy, showy marketing people. We suck at marketing sometimes. So we're we need more visibility and more awareness and more community. And so that's one of the reasons why I have to do a podcast to find my people and to kind of support. introduce them to more people who are like them. And we're like, yeah.
Absolutely. When I first started, I mean, we are talking, I always, use the analogy of like giving birth, which is hilarious because I have never given birth. But like, I'll give the analogy. It's like I was basically like in the process of actually giving birth, right? Like I hadn't even birthed my little entrepreneur baby. And I remember just seeing that, and this was almost 4 years ago, there was really no one who would talk about the full journey of entrepreneurship. And so when I first started, I would call it zero to success. So no one was really talking about zero to success. And I really wanted to support other women on that journey, but I hadn't been on it yet. And so I had no idea how that would really come to fruition, which PS was super frustrating and annoying because I'm very impatient. But right?
Same sister, I feel you.
The more I've been in this space, I think the majority is actually those like us who are tired of this like hustle BS, this like, I'm going to say this and this is coming out in some content for me at some point too, but like
spill surf tea,
it's fine. Of seeing the word productivity. And I know some people who actually like productivity is their thing and more is the power to them, but like, I don't know if I can swear, but F productivity. Like, I don't want to see that. Okay, fuck productivity.
You can swear. Like, oh yeah, if you have two little ones around, sorry. Please put on headphones.
I don't think we can't. And my audience is primarily women. And I just spoke about something today, like women were carrying a lot in general before, the quarantines and all that. But like, we can't anymore. And so every time I see the word productivity, like I actually have a visceral reaction to it. And it doesn't have to be that way. And
yeah.
And because I've done so much inner work on myself and found that transformation, and even with some of the women I've worked with, it's like they're able to let go of feeling like they have to be part of that culture or just like that cog on the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree. Like, I feel what kind of stings to me when I hear productivity, like, oh, you're like one to-do list or one, what's it called, tomato method away from like figuring shit out and like have your life together. And it's like, there is no intersectionality to productivity. And it's the same as the worst Pinterest motivational quote ever. Like, you have the same 24 hours like Beyonce does.
No.
Yeah, sure. But you don't have the private chef, you don't have the fitness trainer, you don't have like blah, 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 the entire entourage. I don't know Beyonce, but she sure has help.
She does.
And there's just no discourse about this. And I'm like, yeah.
I mean, well, it's just like, there's such a lack of transparency online as well. I mean, I know because I know for some people behind the scenes, like I've seen their team. I know how big their team is. And so the way when they put something like that, I honestly if someone could see this, a visual of this podcast, it's me putting up both middle fingers. Like, this is not, it's bullshit.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, like, so as a sociologist and like branding person, I'm really fascinated by this because like they intentionally peddle this brand of, hey, I'm just the girl next door who picked up the camera and like it's just like you.
I know who you're talking about.
Behind there I'm gonna get like a full stand of hate, but it's fine. No, I mean, there are others. Like who? Yeah. Anyway, she has a lovely trio of friends. But it's like, but they're in the like now. Well, when she started, obviously there weren't, but now they're like big corporations behind it, making millions of dollars, and that brand, that extremely down to earth girl next door personal branding they do, it's kind of like giving the impressions like, oh, you can't say anything bad about us, or you can't like criticize us for like the small print we have on our online courses, because hey, we're just like the girl next door selling courses. Like, no, you're actually doing gazillions of dollars a year. Like, you should be held accountable to some sort of corporate standards as well, like other big companies are.
Yes. It's a facade. I mean, it is a marketing tactic. So I was also a marketer.
Yeah.
I mean, these are marketing tactics. And yes, I could, I could have literally years ago just like created a whole business around marketing, but my soul did not want to do that anymore. Like, I literally would say for years, I want to use my powers for good. And when I say, I mean, we're talking early in my 20-year career prior to doing this, I would say that. And so, but what happens is you come into this space and you start running a business and you think you have to be like everyone else. I actually had this conversation with someone we have been connecting on Instagram. It's really funny to me because I legit have a lot of good friends that I've met through Instagram. Like, some of my closest friends that I talk to every day, I've never met in person. And so this woman, we were talking about how when you get the like, hey, oh my God, I really loved your post. I have a dog too. And you like think maybe there's a chance, like maybe you're making a legit connection. And they're like, oh my God, tell me about your business. And so she was telling me, because for me, I caught that at the, like real quick. I was like, this is such BS. Like, I am not doing this. I don't care how many people are peddling that this is like a tactic. I'm not doing it. And she was telling me that when she first started, she thought that when they came and made a suggestion to her, that meant that she didn't know what she was doing. Whereas I was at least lucky enough that the first time that happened to me, I'd had this whole experience. And actually, somebody commented literally on a post I did to tell me why my marketing strategy wasn't working. She didn't know my marketing strategy. She was just out of college, literally, and told me about her professor's marketing book. And the first 24 hours.
Ooh, you read a textbook. Did you also highlight it?
And I thought, I have been working in marketing almost as long as you have been alive. But the first 24 hours, I felt like crap. Like, I actually thought, oh my God, like I have such a bad job. Here's this like 20 something giving me advice. And then, and maybe this is one of those moments, all of a sudden I was like, whoa. And I got angry because I said, no, I do have the experience. I know way more than she does. I actually blocked her and never spoke to her again, which actually made me feel good. But we're bombarded with these.
We're not above feeling petty at times.
I have no problems being petty, not gonna lie. I can like tell you like where this shows up in my astrology and my numerology all the live long day. But here's the thing, I don't feel bad about that anymore. I can look at myself now and actually say, you're being super petty. And I can choose whether I want to be like, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to change? No?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm not petty in a lot of other ways, but I would never have gotten to that place if I hadn't started all these little things that eventually led up to this bigger personal transformation.
So what were like the little things you did?
Honestly, something like literally taking back my power and reminding myself of, no, you have the experience. I actually, one of the things that I've done, it was suggested to me through a coach, I've actually said this to other people, my own clients, is I've made a list of anything I've accomplished, anything I'm proud of. And some of that is, it's not just these like work corporate things. Some of it is, I'm a really good friend. Like, a friend called me this morning, crying because of something happening in her personal. And guess what? Like, and thankfully I'm able to drop everything. Like, I'm a good person. Like, I'm a great dog mom most of the times. I'm on guilt. Who doesn't? But then also these other things. And then when I couldn't find my own reasons, I reached out to people that I know and trust that knew me in a work capacity.
Mm,
And I said, okay, if you needed 3 words to describe me, what would they be? And so I started to literally write stuff
mm.
down. And then sometimes, and now
Yeah.
I do a lot of it mentally because I hate writing things down. But that was one of the things
It's not the same though.
it's not the
It's
same.
not
And
the
I
same
know that.
though.
And I know that. And so sometimes I make myself write it down.
Yeah, that list is powerful. I had to do like my coach last year at the time, Jess, she also like I had to write down
Mm-hmm.
50 things and they could not have been like accomplishments. And I kind of made a joke. Like I at least like I wrote like down like 20 times. I fucking hate this and my coach is making me do this. And I
Nice. I would
screenshotted
do
it
the
to her.
same.
She's like, yep, yeah, it's get your rebel brain out and
Right.
then you fucking do that list. And I'm like, yeah. Just let me rebel and then we're good. We're
Well,
good.
and that, but so that's actually, I am also a rebel. Like that's where some of the personal development tools started to kick in for me is that when I started to, because I was able to
Mm,
use those to better understand myself. And it started with
yeah,
very, I'm just going to say sciencey corporate things like Strengths Finder, right?
that's
And
fine. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad
no,
tool. Like tool aren't inherently good or bad, right? Like I mean, it's a matter of which one like speaks to
exactly.
you. I mean, but some people are like, ooh, I totally find myself in a strength finder or in like, oh, however they're all called, or in
Yes.
the Gretchen
Yes.
Rubin test, or in like
Oh
the
yeah.
Enneagram or the human design, or whatever it is. Like, it's
Right.
cool.
It's they're tools. They can help you
Yes.
or they can't. And if one doesn't
Yes.
resonate with you, that's okay. You might find another one that does.
Yeah. Drop
Exactly.
that shit. Like, I mean, what's
Seriously.
no point?
And so, that's because I do know my human design and I'm partially aligned ones. Like I love to research, like I love to learn. And so, and PS, that did not show up in my top 5 strengths. Other things did. But this
Interesting.
is who I am. And so the more I started that, so this was very, I mean, this was over a year, maybe 2, if I had to think about it. Yeah, I don't even know what time is anymore, right?
Who knows? Doesn't
But
matter.
of really just like deep diving and learning more about myself, and I use the tools that worked. I've never used Enneagram, like it does not speak to me.
Yeah.
It never felt accurate. So guess what? I don't use Enneagram, right? Like if someone I'm working with loves Enneagram, I could research that and be
Mm.
like, okay, cool. Tell me like what you are, and I'll
Yeah.
learn about that into how to work with them. But for me, it didn't work. And I
Yeah.
found that it's this like, I wrote it down somewhere because I wrote it down, but of course it's me. So I have like 80,000 scraps of paper everywhere, right? There's this process, let's say, I'm making air quotes because it's not linear, where I feel like as you get to know yourself, you then kind of start to understand, like, oh, okay, that's why I do that thing. And after that, there becomes, at least for me, this piece of like, oh, that's cool. Like I do that and that's okay. And there becomes this sort of like embracing that moves into like this acceptance and this empowerment or this confidence. Like I can throw all the words out there, but there's just because becomes
Mm.
this thing of like, for me, it was, I am going to own that. Like I am going to own
Yeah.
that I do XYZ. And the more I do that and the more I've done that, the more
Mm.
I've seen it just like naturally show up, if that makes sense. So, like today, somebody,
Yeah, no, it does totally. Like your brain, although I call my brain Nicole when I'm really mad at her, and like, but she's not inherently working against me. Like when I mean, everyone knows that
mm-hmm.
effect, right? Like for example, when you're a dog owner, when you get a new dog, or when you're pregnant, you suddenly see a lot of pregnant
Yes,
women or a lot of
yes,
women with dogs, and you're like, whoa, where have all these people been? Right? It's your brain like helping you to be like, hey, look,
mm-hmm.
community, connections, patterns, blah blah blah. So yeah, no woo woo,
And
total
yet there
science.
is like a whole science woo woo thing that's all about the energetics of it. There's a book by Pam Grout called E Squared. So it's like you have to Google E2.
Yeah,
And she talks about like the phenomenon, but also like how energy works. And again, like sometimes I'm not going to lie, this like hurts my brain too much. And I'm just going to go with like the spiritual woo woo piece of it and be like, cool, it's energy. But it's like how when you're thinking about like, oh, I need a new car, maybe I want a Subaru, and then all I see everywhere is Subaru. And she actually has, it's kind of cool, these little mini experiments you can do to see this work and show how like we can attract things with our energy.
Nice.
And that's not to go down this whole like attraction and manifestation thing, because that's its own thing, but it's actually just like the repetitive process of reminding myself that I do something because like that's how I do it and that's okay.
Yeah.
Was amazing. Literally just today, somebody like threw some like long blowing smoke positivity response to a reel I did. Like we're talking paragraphs level. And then I go look at their account and they're a confidence coach or something for women, which is cool. And I messaged a friend of mine and I said, yeah, I kind of want to message this person and say, I don't need a stranger on the internet to give me confidence. I'm already confident. Thank you. But until that moment, and it was coming out of my mouth, I thought, holy shit, I am confident now. Where that came from, I can't tell you. It's not every day in every single facet of my life or business, but doing the work is finally showing up. And that's, it feels like finally, like doing the work has been showing up for a while, but it does, right? And it's like that transformation.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, because that's so true in everything, right? We're always waiting for that one big thing, that one thing that will go viral, or that one croissant we don't eat so we'll lose 20 pounds. Like that one big thing that we completely disregard all the teeny tiny baby steps we're doing and we're continuously doing. And they're like, nah, that was nothing. Like, meh. And completely disregard the compounding effect of that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so powerful.
I love that, the compounding effect. I actually want to write that down. But it's true.
It's not just for finance people. We can use that word too.
It's so true because I used to talk that way when I worked in insights. So marketing insights, research insights. And I actually hated the word insight because people would talk about it like it's this big magical time where lightning strikes. No, it's not. Like everyone, it literally would be this like almost like a snap and something clicked into place. And then it was like, oh, and it opened up this huge thing. But it also happens in the personal transformation process. This literally happened to me on Saturday. I was kind of talking with my mom and something came out of me. And well, I'll say it. I'll announce it here first. I was saying something to her. I know you do have a scoop. And I said, energy management is the new time management. Yeah, right. And all of a sudden I was like,
so true. So true.
And I was like, and that is what I help people do. Figuring out like, and again, we can use energy in however we want to think about it, but think about burnout, right? How many of us are burnt out right now or have been burnt out or are suffering, like trying not to get into burnout? It's like, how do we actually just like learn how to like manage some of that stuff and like really cultivate more energy for the things we love to do? Because that's actually going to be what helps us, I mean, sure, transform, but also in the broader scale, like that's what's going to help us find that fulfillment or success. I now use fulfillment instead of success, but it's like that line, energy management is a new time management, just like kind of came out of me. And all of a sudden I was like, holy shit. And it just clicked into place. And now it's like, there's a new website coming. Like I finally feel after so many, like we're talking 2+ years, I finally feel like, okay, now I know how to talk about what I do. Now I know how to actually put a message out there that's consistent. Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
That's so powerful.
Right. And so
talking about the Scenic route, do you hear that people 2.5 years? 2.5 years.
Which
is
in
amazing.
The scheme of things is like,
are you starting a little bit to crap on yourself now?
No, not at all. No, what I was going to say is it's like in this scheme, no, not at all. No, in this scheme of things, 2 years is like, whatever, right? It's 2 years. But when you're in it, what I was going to say is like, there's this part of me that kind of feels bad saying to people, like, it took me 2 years. It took me 2 years from when I had the very first thought of, I want to move into coaching. Okay, funny, especially for anyone listening who has a chronic illness or deals with chronic pain. I was literally laying on the couch. I'd taken a pain pill, so I was a little buzzy. And I was texting, and I texted a friend of mine. Yeah, it was probably, honestly, if I could go back and text, I'm not going to do it like with this friend, but it's like, it was around July of 2020. And I was like, I think I want to be a coach. Like, I think that's really what I want to do. So if I'd like gone to school or taken a course like for 2 years, that's normal. But when you're in it and you're trying to build a business and run a business and have a business while you're doing all these things, it felt like 20 years. So I wasn't going to crap on myself. I have this feeling of like, I don't want people to think, oh my God, it took her 2 years. But on the other hand, if you think,
no, but at the same time, like, it took you 2 years, but there are so many things about this. Like, it's not like you've wasted those 2 years in corporate. Like, you were out there taking messy action. You were out there doing and trying things, right? Like, I mean, that's why I'd heard that most of potential clients who come to me who are just starting out, I'm like, oh, like, I want to work with you. I want to have a brand, like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but look, seriously, with all my love, like, I mean, yeah, sure, I love your money, but just go out there, try, do shit. And if you find something that you love doing, you see it resonates with people, you go do that for 6, 8, 12 months, then we're going to have a chat again. But I feel it's like, I'd rather have you go out, do things, and or be like, I mean, that's a lot of like I mean, you could also have said like, oh, I'm gonna wait till I'm like coaching till I'm taking on clients, until I have the proper messaging of how I present my services.
And I fell into that trap.
Then you would have made no money in 2 years.
I mean, I fell into that trap a lot. My very first branding, and because I worked in marketing, I knew I needed a brand identity. And at that point, I probably literally needed a brand identity, but I worked with someone who did brand strategy. Now, are my values and things still the same? Probably. Yeah. So values don't change. Where I might put the emphasis, that might have changed. But I am
sure
now, and that has been, so that was it 2019 or 20? Yeah, that was 2019 in the spring, 2019. I am finally now, as of Saturday, ready, when I feel like it, to think about an actual full brand. I'm not even sure I can call it a rebrand, because my brand ring right now is just like, it's just me, it's just whatever. But I, at the beginning, like, I didn't need a brand strategy. I needed, honestly, like a template brand, or just, that's what I really needed, because I agree, you can't, if you're just starting out and you haven't been thinking about this for a while, if you're like me and you just quit your job and then ended up hating freelancing, and you're like, I'm just going to start a business.
I love that. That's actually how most of my clients start, right? Like, they're experts in their fields, and then they're like, I'm just gonna do this as my business. Well, a solid plan. But then, as you said, like, then there's a whole lot of like personal development shit that's get thrown at you.
Totally.
Like,
oh my God,
you're an expert service provider, but you're a rookie at building a business. You have no idea about like finance and CEOs shit, and then you're like, my business is not working. I'm like, I suck at like coaching, teaching, writing, whatever service you provide. It's like, no.
Yeah.
2 separate things. Like, I'm hammering this into my clients, like almost with every client, I'm hammering this in the beginning, like relentlessly.
I say this, and I think it's pretty true. No one really, now some people might, so right, there's my caveat, but like, I don't think the majority of people start a business because they want to run a business. They might be like, right?
That's so true.
They might
That's
hate
so
their
true.
jobs.
Yes.
They might hate working in corporate. They might just want to help people and like provide these services.
Or they just want to go to the pool when it's a nice day and not
Did you
sit at
see
the
my
office.
story yesterday? Because that's what I did. I just went to the pool. Yes.
I did.
Okay.
I did. That's why I had the pool
But
thought.
nobody talks to you about running a business. And 1000% did I not know how much personal development needed to be done to run a business.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, looking back, I still would have done it if I'd known. But oh my God, shit was messy and still messy. There was so much shit I felt like I've passed that was coming up and up again and hitting me in the face. And I was like, why am I not getting this message? And it goes back to like the big leap where we talked about in the beginning. I don't believe in necessarily in self-sabotage, because I feel whatever, like, I'm curious behind why you think it's self-sabotage and why you're like I always feel like it's as some sort of protection. But it was interesting because I still felt like, ooh, but why do I know better but not do better? Until I read the book and he was talking about the upper limit problem. I was like, oh, sting.
Right.
I was like, yeah. Oh. So I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, that was a big thing for me, right? Because like, I had a burnout like 10, 11 years ago. What's it now? And like motherhood and COVID and like chronic illness that came with giving birth and everything else. Like I was so good at taking crappy, like so resilient, like, I mean, to a default, which is good. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, this is not bad enough. Like everyone around me, my coach, my psychiatrist, they're all like, well, shit is pretty bad though. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Like, just, so I was like, whoa, okay. So my capacity for everything sucky is like this big pool, but my capacity to hold good things is this teeny tiny kiddie pool.
Yeah.
Like this can work. Just from like a logical and energetic point, like from everyone, like this is not right.
I feel like there's somewhere where knowing you're resilient can become almost like a bad thing, right? It's like, because as you were talking, I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking, I mean, I know people who are resilient and that's amazing. But then I'm thinking of myself and I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty resilient, but sometimes I wonder if there's almost this piece where for some of us, we get such like a pride piece, or we're proud of ourselves for being, it becomes a badge of honor. So then it's almost like, do we sort of like subconsciously start taking on more? And instead of giving ourselves some space or some rest, instead we say, oh, but it's a badge, but I'm resilient. And it's like self-sabotage.
We do that a lot, I feel, especially because I feel like all women identifying people, like we have this story ingrained of like, oh, you like suck it up, don't complain, like
totally
just be a good girl, right? Like to be like, oh, okay, so I'm just gonna suck it up, like it's fine, I'm resilient, like I can take shit. I'm like, it's actually it's not about you. I know you're able to take shit, but do you want to take shit?
Exactly. I mean, my like sort of mantra from when I was in college was, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And is that true? Sure. But guess what?
That's another one of those shitty Pinterest quotes.
It is. But like, I mean, now for me, this was pre-Pinterest because I'm old. And it was after I had a semester where I got mono, broke a bone, and also got kicked out of my sorority in one semester.
Ooh, that's a lot.
So, right. So I was like really proud of myself, but then that I made it through and actually finished that semester. However, I would also enjoy not having like attempted killings all the time. Like, sure, that makes me stronger, but guess what? I might be strong enough. We don't always need that. We don't always need to. I love what you said. Wear resilience like a badge of honor. We don't have to take it on just because we can't.
that's so powerful. We don't have to if we don't. Like, it's kind of like, what are you trying to prove to yourself or to others around you by taking it on, by doing it, by doing all the things, by sitting in a deep pile of shit and just like pile on some more. I'm good. I'm resilient.
Right.
What are you trying? What are you getting out of it? Like, that's always an interesting question, right? Like, that's coming back to sabotage. Like, I don't feel those people are sabotaging themselves. There's something they gain that they feel is more valuable than whatever else could be out there. And that's a mixture, to me, is a mixture of limiting beliefs, of false stories that you've been told since you were like, I mean, the big stories we hold dear about, like money or relationships, like they come from our formative years. So year 3, 4-ish to 7-ish. So for the past, like for my kids, for the past 30 years, I heard like limiting shit that I really have to think about. Okay, a lot of that feels like it's my character, where I actually have to dissect. And it's like, no, actually, no, I do not believe that. I'm not like that. Or I am actually like that. I'm actually that petty little bitch, and it's fine.
Yeah, there's another side to it too that I have found. So I'm an empath. So empathy is my number one strength,
HSP
according
here.
to Strength Finders. Yeah. So right. And so and so there's something too where it's like, when I finally accepted, and when I realized I had empathy, and then once I finally accept, like, okay, I'm an empath, it's almost like, well, I know I can help, so shouldn't I? And so, and it became kind of a weird thing where it was like, I want to help. I truly do like to help people. So it's like, that was there. And I'm sure there was also a little piece of like, well, this is a gift you have, so shouldn't you help people? And it almost became, and I've been working on this one for about 6-ish months.
It became like, a Sean of Arc badge, like a martyr or badge of honor.
Yes, it had become a badge of honor. But what I've been working on for 6 months is realizing I don't have to do that just because I can fix something, or just because I see how something can be fixed, or what's happening with someone. I don't have to fix that. That is not my job. That is not my role. I don't have to do that. Yes. And I don't have to do that. And I'm talking about, like, this isn't just with a client. This is family. This is parents. But guess what?
Yes.
And
everyone around, like in your field.
Right. But the other piece is, and I guess this is part of what started to click in for me, is why is helping them at the detriment to myself a good thing? Right? Like, why am I doing that? And sure, it's for all the reasons we mentioned, but then I started to,
what story can you tell yourself if you do those things?
Right. And then how do I know people I even have kind of an eye roll with this phrase, but like, I've been taking a lot of my power back. And it's better
to say you take your own power back than for coaches to write on their website, I empower, blah, blah, blah. No, you do not. Like, you cannot. You literally cannot.
No. You should look at the post I put up yesterday, which is, it's being powerful doesn't mean you're a bitch.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is like, it's a whole other thing we don't have to go down. But basically, what was the reason or the way I was able to start like making these decisions in the moment is when I saw something that was going to take my energy or helping somebody. It was like, okay, is this going to make me feel better, same, or am I going to feel worse? Right? Like, is it going to exhaust me?
Yes.
Right. Sometimes it's like going to family events. Okay. I don't really like it. Not going to lie. I love my extended family. I just don't want to do that.
Be around them. Yes. Same.
My mom feels like personally upset sometimes if I don't go. So I make decisions sometimes on, okay, am I going to make my mom upset with me, which I never want to do. She's like my best friend. Or am I going to stand up and say, not happening. Right. Yeah. And like, talk about ingrained stuff, right? That's pretty
Yes,
ingrained.
yes. That reminds me of like one of the passages I love most about Glennon Doyle's book Untamed. It's like you have to disappoint everyone else before you disappoint yourself. I'm paraphrasing. It goes something like this.
That book is amazing. P.S. The very first story in there is another way to like embrace who you are and your confidence. You're a fucking cheetah. Boom.
Yeah,
like,
or whatever, right? Like,
no, that's what
you can be a fucking Robin for all I care.
Totally.
Yeah,
but it's just like that book was so good. Now I want to go like reread it or buy it but it was so good. And that is whatever the paraphrase is for it. But it's like, why do we do so much for others before doing for ourselves? And it's like, it's ingrained in us. It's definitely ingrained in like little girls. Yes.
I mean, this is a fucking gender thing. I'm sorry, right. This is a gender thing.
It is. And honestly, I'm kind of at the point too, where it's like, I feel like we don't have to be, I'm not going to be ashamed to talk about gender things anymore. Like, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Like, why you should ever feel sorry? Like, I mean, I also call myself a feminist. Like, why should you ever be embarrassed to talk about gender? Like, I feel feminism is talking about, not about like, ooh, we want to like the gender of women should be better, but it's actually about the liberation of everyone.
Yes.
And knowing that the liberation for oneself cannot happen without the liberation of all.
That's beautiful. But it's true.
How do we, like, if we know we have this gift, why do we feel obligated to share it? Like, should we share it with everyone? And for me, that was a moment when I first heard about human design. Because I was always like, I'm a projector. So I was kind of like, yeah, that totally kind of makes sense. Because if I don't have the invitation, like, for example, like I would be talking to someone and then I would give them, in all fairness, it was unsolicited advice, which, yeah, I'm that one. But so it was unsolicited advice. And in retrospective, I'm like, yeah, I mean, of course that person didn't take it on well, because I was not waiting for my invitation.
Right.
Like, so they were not ready to perceive it. And just because you have the gift to fix whatever, it's not your job unless you're paid to do so.
Right.
Yeah, that's the same. Like, if you also have a gift, you should be able to make money with that gift. If you actually relieve people's tension and you help make them feel better, you should be fucking paid for this. And like really be, hey, no. And that was really hard for me because I'm kind of like, whenever someone talks to me about their business or their brand, I'm already like, okay, this is the big picture. This is like how all the pieces go together. And the off chance that I could just steamroll them.
Sure.
And it's kind of like, well, it's also not fair for me to steamroll them. They kind of I have to be patient enough to kind of like let them do their own way and come to the point where like, hey, I actually need your help now.
Well, and I'll say, I mean, I think, or you could say, hey, if this feels like I'm steamrolling, let me know. Like, I actually, I am a fixer. That is like 1000%. It's in my human design. It's probably in everything I do, but I've at least finally learned to say things like, do you want me to just listen?
Yes.
Do you want me to offer some thoughts or some solution?
You want to have a hot beverage or just vent?
Right. And so I love human design. I've studied it. I use it with my clients, but human design is one of these things that's so nuanced. It's funny to me because I'm a generator, and there are so many times though where I'd hear marketing suggestions and like, yeah, I'm great at other people's marketing. It came to my own business and I was like, I don't know. And here's what,
but I mean, that's totally natural and normal though.
Well,
like, you have your blind spots. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Like,
and I know that now, but I used to like berate myself for being like, why can't you do everybody else? You're a marketer. Why can't you do your own? It's like, I don't want to. And that's what it was. But here's the thing. I have so many gates gates in my human design that are actually projector gates that I have,
that's interesting.
which I had no idea until I went so far down the rabbit hole. And because I know that now, I can look back and say, okay. So like for me, am I ever going to personally pitch a podcast? No. But when you came to me and invited me, I was like, of course. Because even though I'm a generator with my energy, the full design, I have a lot of projector things. And so some of that, yes, it's helpful because I understand how I work. And I think really just the other day, I realized that one of the things that has happened to me over the course of my fuller entrepreneur journey is I get really excited about an idea, like a service I want to offer, and I want to put it out there. But then when I go through the whole process of like, okay, like I should build my Dubsado page, and now I have to build a sales page, and now I have to set
the
this
nitty
up,
gritty.
and it all falls apart. And so I've in, I don't know, like this might be numerology or astrology or something, talks about how basically I need to find other people to do the execution. And I've known I'm not an executor for years. Again, a corporate test that would talk about creator, advancer, refiner, and execute.
Oh, yeah.
The care.
Know which one.
Yep. I am not an executor. I could care less. But what's happening then is I finally realized like, oh, so every time I have this great idea and my generator energy lights up and I'm super excited, by the time I do all the teeny tiny little details that get to where I'm ready to then share it,
poof,
it's gone. And so I started thinking about this, like, okay, well then how can I change up what I do? Do I just want to tell people, message me to learn how we can work together? Maybe I just do that for a little while. People do it all the time.
I invested in a program and all she had was a shitty Google Doc. And I'm like, it's awesome. Just don't tell me more. Here's my money.
Nobody cares. I have a friend and she's a client too, but she sold like retreats in the thousands of dollars from a Google Doc. Do I need to build a Dubsado page? Do I need to even build a sales page? I don't even need to do that. I can't tell you how, when I had this thought, and it was literally just the other day, I thought, so I could literally just put in my like Instagram post or my newsletter, message me to learn more. And there are some people who are going to do that. Some people might not.
Yeah. And some won't. It's fine.
But I don't have to, it doesn't have to be linear. I can start talking about it and have people message me. And then when I feel like it, I can put it together. When I feel like it, I can put together my new website.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a total like arrivederci, goodbye, see you, sayonara to the fucking shoulds.
Yes.
And like this is the outline funnel, blah, 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 of all you have to do, blah, blah, blah.
No. I don't need to do that. If at some time I want to do that, guess what? I'll do it when my business is doing so well that I feel like I just feel like I want to hire someone to put it together for me.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like it's so liberating. This feels so liberating. And like to kind of like know, okay, knowing more about myself is frustrating and exhausting because we're not like meaning, oh, you have to know more about yourself, like what colors you like and like unicorn poo or rainbow.
Yeah.
Glitter, whatever. But actually like the bad things, the things you don't even want to write down in your journal because you're afraid someone's gonna read it and be like, that's a horrible person, like that kind of shit. Right. And like actually looking at that and it's not necessarily, I don't really like the word owning. I feel it's more like embodying that, and it's really like the one way to kind of find your power again.
I mean, I have everything I don't know, maybe this will sound egotistical. Everything that like shows up in my astrology. Let's say it's astrology. Actually, it showed up in StrengthsFinders too. Everything basically, I could be like the most evil person ever. In StrengthsFinders, my number 2, my second one is woo, winning over others. Okay. I have all these, and when you read that description, it literally sounds like a used car salesman. Cool. I know how people are literally feeling. Like I could manipulate the living shit out of anybody I wanted. And so I would read some of these things about myself, and I started realizing, like, whoa, slow my roll.
Yeah.
I am not going to become this evil person. I've not become this evil person yet. And I worked in advertising. Hey, guess what? Oh my God. Here's the thing.
And you worked in advertising.
It's so funny. So at least in the US, there is like, I swear it's a rite of passage, at least in the strategy career, for when you've reached the point where one of the cigarette brands, where you get reached out to work at the agency for one of the cigarette brands, right? Like that is, and it's totally true. And I sort of remember when that happened, but did I take that job? And they paid a lot, right? Because nobody wanted to work on their accounts. I didn't do it, right? Right. And there's nothing, look, for some people, there's nothing wrong with that. For me, Jesus, these days, there are certain things I wouldn't go see Top Gun Maverick. I'm a huge movie person because I just think Tom Cruise is just so like, ugh. Okay. So, and yet I'm worried that I'm going to use my powers for evil. Right. And this is a pretty recent insight where I was like, I mean, not negative self-talk. I'm going to call it like self-tough love, where I was like, Jennifer Michelle, that's my middle name. You are an empath. You overcompensate being nice, and you've done this for years. You're not going to suddenly turn into this like megalomaniac. Can we trust ourselves that we won't do that? And I was like, yeah, I should probably do that, huh? Like we all have shadow sides. That doesn't mean just because we understand ourselves and now we know what our shadow side is, it doesn't mean we're suddenly going to like take a turn and go work for the dark side. And if you do, who cares?
Yeah, trusting yourself.
They do. And you need shadow to make light. So, right?
Yeah. They got cookies. No, for sure. Like, I mean, it's always like, I feel it's always valuable, like, to know and to also kind of know, like, oh, it's like light gen coming through or shadow gen coming through, right? Like, from which kind of like energetical side, like, is it coming through with one intention?
Right. And, you know, oh God, I feel like I've heard everybody's shtick on every word in the course of 4 years doing this. But okay, so like I know people who don't like the word balance. Cool, that's great. But here's the thing. Am I pretty petty sometimes? Yes, I absolutely am. Guess what? There's another side of me that would probably like murder and hide bodies for my friends. So
my kind of pet peeve is that whenever I'm really bad with road rage.
Totally. Yeah.
So whenever I'm like, I kind of wish, I think only my partner knows this about me, I kind of wish I would be in a GTA game where I could just like run over people and shoot them down and just be like, problem solved. Now I can drive off in my Mustang.
I mean, right?
Which obviously, I don't own a Mustang. I would never fucking do that. I drive a Ford because it's like, it's just a car. Who cares?
Right.
But it's kind of like, oh God, I wish it would be like a GTA 5 game now, where I could just like run over people because they fucking annoy me.
Right. Like nobody is this like, nobody is this like fully 100% love and light 1,000% of the time.
Well, no. And I mean, even if you are, I don't know. I mean, if you truly are that, that's cool. I mean, I
maybe, but I still think like no one is perfect.
No. I mean,
so
and but that's not the same thing, though. If you're all like light, shiny unicorn poo, that's, to me anyway, that's not a definition of perfect.
That's a good point. Good point. Plus, I guess I'm petty enough. I mean, like, okay, Buddha probably found enlightenment, right? So like we could, but I would bet even like the Dalai Lama is going to say that he's not love and light all the time, right? And so I guess I just firmly believe like we all have shadow stuff, and like that's okay, and that doesn't make us, Darth Vader.
Yes, that's such a good point, and that's also like a really lovely note to end our conversation. I've got one final question, though.
Yes.
What book are you currently reading?
Ooh, what book am I? I have so many right now. Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple ones that I'm reading.
I'm the same. I have a stack here. I have a stack next to my bed. Like, I have a stack on my Kindle.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a few of the nonfiction books I'm reading. So I'm reading a book called The Happiness Trap, which is about, well, you can go kind of go look. It's very interesting, really helpful. I think there's a modality of mental health therapy,
Oh, nice.
therapy,
Yeah.
called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. And so this guy took some of that and wrote this whole thing. It's really fascinating. Also reading a book on astrology because I've been fascinated on that. And I'm also giving myself like a pat on the back because I'm reading it for my own fun and not just like a business book to do to others. And
Nice.
then I'm still in the middle of Boundary Boss.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Oh, it's real good.
Oh,
Real good. By Terry Cole. It's really good, especially if you think you're really good at setting boundaries. You will find out you probably are not.
Ooh, I'm gonna look into that.
Yes.
Oh, I'm curious. Yeah, because I feel like I am pretty good at setting boundaries, but yeah, I'm curious. Probably I'm shitty at it, but probably everyone who knows me is like, no, she's really shitty at that. Like, go read that book.
We can be really good at some of them and really not good at others.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is fine. It's totally fine. Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. So, hey, tell me, before we finally wrap up, tell me, how can people find you online? How can they work with you?
Yes, so you can find me online at jenfieldman.com, one N. You can also find me on Instagram, still there these days. This is a new one. You can also, I started a TikTok.
You started? Oh, yeah, then you have to add me. I also started a TikTok.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a hate-love TikTok relationship.
Same.
Yeah, I'm always like, oh, I love TikTok. And then I see something weird. I'm like, I'm too fucking old for this shit.
Right. Okay. So I generally do feel too old for TikTok. I'm not going to lie. And it's actually not really business related, but my TikTok is functioning sick person. So, right. Which is a phrase that it's a phrase my best friend came up one day, but it actually is because there's so many people. It happened like within like a 2-week span where I had a bunch of people who are dealing with like a lot of things with either chronic illness or mystery diagnoses. And they kept saying to me, you should really, this, like, people need to hear this. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just start a TikTok for fun.
Ooh, yeah.
Functioning sick person. So,
or high functioning sick person.
Oh, I could, but I have like 30 accounts right now because the one that was associated with my business Instagram, I can't get into. So there's like 80 Jen Fieldman accounts that are all me. They're all me. So I'm not starting yet another. I'm not changing it to high functioning sick person because I can't have another TikTok account running around out there. So yeah,
I feel that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Listen to me anytime, pretty much on any platform. And
yeah, Jen is hilarious in DM. So
thank you. I do my best. But I'm always, I do have a website that lists my services page.
No, but now. We're all curious for your new energies and your time management shit.
Yeah. And it's not a lot of difference. The services right now I'm doing one-to-one coaching. So, and then I have a one-time session. If you just, it's called a quick fix. If you it's like almost like a coach on call. Like, I've got this one thing, I need an hour of your time, and people can book that too. So
love that. Okay, perfect. Well, hey, listen, thank you so much for joining me on an episode of the Scenic podcast. Yeah, and I'm sure we're probably gonna do, like, I don't know, in season 2 or so, we're gonna do another one on, I'm sure we can find a lot of, maybe we do like a rage episode where we rage against everything we fucking hate.
Can we do that? Do you watch Family Guy?
No, everyone tells me that I would love Family Guy, but I've never seen it.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send you, I'll find the link. There's an episode where the main character, Peter, he gets put on the radio or the news because he goes on this rant about things that grind his gears. And he says, you know what really grinds my gears? And so it's basically, he just rants. So yes, I will send you a link to that.
Yes, and then we can that we're just gonna copy that. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Perfect.
Okay, hey, listen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Scenic Route podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that you can take something from it that feels right to you. I'd be so grateful if you could share the Scenic Route podcast with others and leave a rating and review so we can introduce more people to the joy of taking the scenic route in business. As always, you can head over to scenicroutepodcast.com to check out all links and resources from today's episode. Oh, and while you're there, don't forget to download my free email course, Intuitive Branding Invitation, to teach you how you can successfully tune into your own brand frequency and rediscover your brand's unique gifts, strengths, and talents. So thanks again. Talk soon.